Hi, I'm Dick Wagner. Welcome to the Crest Network. This video is about the concept of closing the sale. You've probably heard the expression ABC, or in many sales courses that you may have sat in, you have heard the concept always be closing, always be trying to finalize the sale. And as you can see, I've got a giant X over top of the concept of always be closing. There are a lot of sales gurus, and I put those in quotes, or quote unquote experts. Often these are sales and marketing coaches and trainers that had their heyday in the 1980s and 90s, some into the early 20s, 2005, that really pounded this concept of ABC, always closing. The fact of the matter is that's bogus. That's BS today because the public, the consumer, doesn't like it. They feel like when you're always closing or always trying to be closing, it feels to the consumer, it feels to that prospect that it's you with a giant sledgehammer. Oh, for heaven's sakes, don't try to pound your sale into their head. Today, people have mastered the art of resistance. And so we take a totally different approach. Today, we want to make sure that you never be closing. You never try to use the sledgehammer to beat them into submission to buy from you. There are far better ways. It's kind of like driving a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't work. You know what'll happen. Something's going to splinter, something's going to break. And in your particular case, trying to drive a square peg into a round hole isn't going to work. It's going to destroy the relationship. As salespeople, we have to care far more about the client than we are caring about our own immediate benefit or our own immediate gain. I've taught this concept for many, many years where I have said, bring value to your client or your prospect in advance. That's why I promote the concept of Maven articles. If you go to the Crest Network's website, many of you already know the information about what a Maven article is, but read about it, learn about it, see how you can utilize a Maven article, because a Maven article shows your client that you care more about them than you're caring about yourself. The fact of the matter is, buyers are watching you, they're listening to you, they're studying you, they're evaluating a whole series of things. They're trying to decide whether you're trustworthy. That's a big one. And it's why I spend so much time teaching my clients, teaching you how to quickly raise your credibility with a client or a prospect. Because the faster you can raise your credibility, the more trustworthy they think you are. And hopefully you are. They're evaluating, can I really benefit from what this salesman is offering? Can I see myself doing business with this marketer? I wonder what's in it for the salesperson. I wonder what they actually gain out of it. Now, sometimes it's real obvious. They understand that if you're an insurance agent and they refer a loss to you, they understand what's in it for you. But if you're selling a commercial pre-disaster program and you're not charging for it, they're wondering, what's your angle? What's your gimmick? What are the strings that are attached that I'm not smart enough to see right now? So the quicker you can ratchet up your credibility, your believability, and your trustworthiness, the more likely they are to be less skeptical of you. If it's obvious to you that you just want to make a sale, then it's very obvious to them. And when you appear very obvious, very desperate to them, they feel like you're the puppeteer, you're the master, and you've got a whole bunch of strings connected to them, and that you're pulling the strings and you're playing the puppeteer. Please don't do that, because that's perceived as fake. Persuasion, gentle, logical persuasion is far more appropriate. And when I use the word logical, I want to caution you. Nobody makes their decision solely based on logic. In fact, logic usually is only about 10% of the total buying decision. People buy based on emotion. So your persuasion needs to be focused on storytelling, things that are emotional to them, that make them feel like, wow, this makes really good sense from an emotional standpoint, where you're taking them from never to maybe to yes. And you can't do that when you're coercing them. You can't do that when coercion is involved. It's also not about forcing them to drink your Kool-Aid. It's not about making them embrace and swallow what you're offering in a sales pitch. It's about how well you can make them thirsty. And one of the best ways to make them thirsty is to tell a compelling story that triggers their emotions. Storytelling does trigger people's emotions. Folks, you remember the Little Red Riding Hood story. You remember the three little piggies and the wolf that huffed and puffed. You remember the Jack and the Beanstalk story. Why? Because it created emotion. We love stories. Get in the habit of telling stories. Stories move the prospect. Stories help the prospect connect to the values that you want them to connect to. Stories make them thirsty. I'm Dick Wagner. I hope that this little 10 minutes has been useful to you, and it's, as is always my hope, that you can take away a $50 nugget of usefulness out of this 10-minute video. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.